Hey guys, it's Kevin again, my review for Good Boys. And what Good Boys is essentially about is we center on these three characters. We have Max, Lucas, and Thor. They have been friends for a long time now, and they're now all in the 6th grade. And one day, Max is invited to this kissing party where this girl he likes is going to be. And basically, because he's so inexperienced, he wants to try to get some help. So he ends up spying on his neighbors using his dad's, basically his dad's drone device, but when the drone device is ruined, basically the three of them are now on this adventure where they have to try to skip school in order to simultaneously repair this drone, replace it and things like that, but also, concoct this plan with these two teenage girls and also hopefully get Max to the party on time, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Good Boys overall, I was so excited for this film. I mean, this to me looked like the definition of just a really fun and different sort of summer comedy, which is exactly what I want. I think this has actually been a pretty good year for comedy so far. There's a lot that have been pretty great, and Good Boys seem like it would definitely be at the top of the list for sure. I really do like, especially because Jacob Tremblay's in. I'm a big fan of him as an actor, and I was excited to see what they would do with that, but also just seeing them, these three tweens have Seth Rogen type humor was something that I think could have been really funny for sure. Of course, there was a doubt in my mind that maybe it could have just been a gimmick, but I pretty much had hope that this was going to be something great, and thankfully, that's exactly what it was. In fact, Good Boys actually exceeded my expectations. This is a absolutely hysterical film, but also is surprisingly a lot more heartwarming than I really was expecting, and we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And more than anything, that is definitely one of the best things, I think, about this entire film. I think really everyone just does such a fantastic job here, especially when it comes to the three boys. I mean, all of them are really great. But of course, we first have to talk about Jacob Tremblay, who, I mean, I've been a fan of him pretty much since Room. I think he is one of the best child actors working today, if not the best child actor working today. Pretty much everything I see him in, I think he's extraordinary, minus The Predator. That was the only film that didn't really utilize him that well. And once again here, he does a really great job. Max is someone who, out of the three, he is definitely the most straight-laced out of all of them, but he also is very curious. You can tell that he's really starting to grow, sexual curiosity and things like that, and I think Tremblay just did a really great job. He had some really great lines in the movie. He very much is the straight man in the way, but he also has the most going on storyline-wise, and I think overall he was really great here. I really love where they end up going with him. I think he just really did a great job here, and he just fits so well into this role. You can tell he was having a lot of fun, and he definitely does not disappoint. This is yet another great performance in a slew of amazing performances from this actor, and he just did some great work here. And surprisingly, though, he's actually not the standout in this movie, which, I mean, when you have Jacob Tremblay, he usually is the standout, but he actually isn't. The other two boys are just as great, if not better, but especially when it comes to Keith L. Williams as a character of Lucas. I fucking loved this actor. I thought he was hysterical, gives easily one of the funniest performances of the entire year. Lucas is someone who, he is very, he tries to do whatever he can to stick to his core values. He rarely ever strays away from them, and that makes some very hilarious moments. And I think that he did some really great stuff here for sure. He had so many hilarious lines. His comedic timing was so spot on, and I really even see him in anything, but I have to say, for an actor that is relatively unknown, I mean, he just completely killed it in this movie. I cannot wait to see what he's going to do. This is a perfect definition of, like, a Tiffany Haddish or something like that, but again, knowing this is from a, this is from a younger actor, I just think is incredible. I mean, he had the range that even seasoned actors don't really have, and I think he did some really, really great work here for sure. He just had me in stitches throughout the entire film, and I really loved him here. And then Brady Noon as well as Thor, he's the one who, he's trying to be all cool and things like that, and I thought he was definitely a lot of fun. But easily the thing that I think people are really going to latch onto, regardless if you like it or not, is the chemistry between these three. I mean, it is just infectious. These three work off each other so well. You would think that they really were friends all this time. I mean, nothing about this feels forced. These three just work so well together. Their various, eccentricities and their personalities really do mesh well in that way, and I think they just did some really great stuff here. Definitely one of the best things about the movie is their chemistry. They're just so fun to watch and completely anchor this entire film for sure. In terms of the rest of the cast, I mean, everyone does get at least one moment. Molly Gordon and Midori Francis are both very entertaining as the two teenage girls that they end up in this, whole little scheme with. I think they did a really good job. Will Forte is in this about as much as he is Booksmart, which, I mean, it's funny. When this trailer first came out, it came out the same time as Booksmart, and they had the same music, but also Will Forte is in both movies, but he's in this pretty much just as he is Booksmart, but he still does leave quite an impression on you. He's a lot of fun here. I really like what he was doing. He's playing kind of a similar character to what he did in Booksmart, but he's definitely a lot of fun here for sure. Howery and Retta are really great as Lucas's parents. I definitely love them. Again, even though they're not in the movie that much, they did a really great job. And, I mean, this is one of those movies where, like, even the smaller roles, like, say, Sam Richardson in this role as this very annoyed cop that they run into is just so memorable, and they all seem like they were having fun. There really wasn't a single cast member that didn't really work for me. Even the younger kids that I feel like could have been really cringy actually worked really well. I thought that they worked very well together. Everyone seems so committed to this film. They all seem like they were having a lot of fun, and that's definitely one of the best things about this film is just how committed this entire cast was to deliver something truly memorable. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, which, once again, that is definitely one of the best things about this film for sure. The directing here is pretty great from Gene Stupnitsky, which I will say, in terms of directing, he does not do a lot to make himself stick out, but I think he did what he needed to. He doesn't really take this all that seriously. He has a lot of fun with it, but it also doesn't feel like a live-action cartoon. It really doesn't. Yes, the movie is very heightened, and yes, there are a lot of really ridiculous scenarios, but it surprisingly feels very organic. The movie has a very natural sort of feeling to it, almost like a very lived-in sort of feeling, like you could just kind of step into, these boys' shoes, and that you were, like, in their position once, and I think they did a really good job with that, and especially the contrast between the humor, which, I mean, saying this movie is funny is honestly an understatement. It's probably some of the most hysterical stuff I've seen in a while. I cannot remember the last time I laughed as hard as I did during this movie. It's easily probably the funniest movie of the year. It's kind of neck and neck between this and Booksmart for me, but this one, it might very well be up there because, oh my god, when the laughs are there, they're there, and they are some of the biggest belly laughs I've had in a long time. I mean, my sides were hurting. I was laughing hysterically. It was great. It's the definition of what a great comedy should do. But he also intertwines it very well with this sense of heart and this sense of authenticity that I did not think this film was really going to have. And never at one point does that feel like it is compromising the other. It doesn't feel like the drama is getting away the comedy. The comedy doesn't feel like it's undermining the drama. And I think overall he definitely did do a really good job. Again, he didn't really do a lot to stick out, but I do think he did the bare minimum of what he needed to do. The directing, again, it's solid. It's nothing amazing, but I think overall he did what he needed to do. It's just style-wise, I don't really think he did a lot to fully stick out here, and that might be a problem for some, but for me, I mean, it didn't really hinder the film at all. It's just, there wasn't really a specific flair that he had on his own. It felt like this was Seth Rogen that was directing or something like that. I'm fine with that because that's kind of like what they were going for, so it's not a huge problem for me or anything like that. But the writing to this film is truly what is so great about it. I mean, yes, there are a lot of innuendos here, and that's something that I think people are going to have a big stigma against, and something that's going to worry a lot of people is this film really just a gimmick? And I'm happy to report that's not the case, and I never really thought that was going to be the case. I always thought it'd be like a sausage party or something like that, where ostensibly it seemed like it's just a gimmick film, but actually it has a lot more to say besides that, and that's very much the case with Good Boys. Yes, there's a lot of hilarious moments in here, and a lot of that does hinge upon the boys' them being none the wiser to a lot of sexual stuff and their inexperience with those things. And there's a lot of great stuff, especially when it comes to these anal beads that they find. They do a lot more jokes with that than you would expect, but it works. It never feels like that's all the movie has to offer. And that is something I was a little bit worried about. But it's not really that. The movie really is about the friendship between these three and how all of them really are kind of veering in their own directions. And the film actually does a really good job, I think, with giving us just enough character to all of them. Whether it's the character of Thor, someone who... he acts really cool, and he acts like he is this really tough guy that is just unscathed by everything, but in reality, this is someone who, he is bullied a lot, and, he is very much berated by his classmates. They don't really take him seriously, and you kind of see how he's had to put off some of the things he loves, like singing in the school musical, for example, just to fit in with the crowd, and that felt very relatable to me. I think Thor was a really well-written character in that way, or whether it's Lucas, who has to face the fact that his parents are getting a divorce very soon, and that really is starting to hurt him. And although, again, Lucas is the funniest of the three, he does have a lot going on emotionally, and I think they did a good job with that. Or if it's Max, someone who... unlike his two friends, he has been invited to this party. He is starting to hang out more with, like, the cool crowd and things like that. They don't really like his two friends a lot, and he has to do what he can to, he has to do what he can to, hide this from them, because he does care about his friends. So, I felt like they did a lot of stuff to get you to care about these three characters. Not only are you laughing and enjoying them because of their chemistry, but you really do grow to care for these three, and I think they did some really great work there, and that's not something I would expect to say from this movie, but I was very impressed by what they did there. It was definitely one of the best things about this film for sure. But that also does a lot for the comedy, because we care about these characters, they're all so different in that way, Max's very straight-laced sort of attitude mixed with Thor's more, just reckless sort of attitude, and then you have Lucas, who is just the moral high ground of it all. I mean, anything that is pure, anything that, anything that just seems a little bit wrong, Lucas has a problem with. This is just the sort of person that can't lie at all. Every single possible, anything that seems wrong, he is just inherently against, and that just makes for some hysterical comedy. Just the dynamic between those three. That's one of the reasons this movie is so funny, is because they're all so different in that way. And again, a lot of that is contributed by just the different personalities that they all have, the different ways they respond to the situation. It's just great to see, and I absolutely loved it for that reason. But again, the laughs are fairly consistent, and I mean, they hit very hard. And yes, a lot of them were in the trailer, but I will say, even though a lot of the jokes were in the trailer, the funniest part of said joke was not in the trailer, especially when it comes to this scene, and I'm not going to say too much about it, but it involves them in traffic. Oh my god, I was in fucking stitches. I love the way that was done. There's another great scene with them at this frat house and this, like, alarm that keeps going off, and just their reactions to it were just priceless. And just things like that, the movie does a great job with. And there are gags that I feel like in a lesser film would get annoying after a while. There are a lot of things they do repeat here, but yet they find something different to do with it each time, so it is still funny. It doesn't feel like these gags are wearing to, have gone on too long. And that's something that a lot of comedies do suffer from these days, but I didn't really feel like that was something that this film really suffered from. I think they did a really good job with that, and I was overall very impressed when it came to that stuff. And like I said, just when you juxtapose that with the sense of authenticity that the film does have, especially in its latter half, it actually does get kind of emotional. I think they actually did a really good job with it. They did a good job with giving us enough stuff to laugh at, but also enough for a reason to care for these characters, and I overall was very impressed by that here. I like what they did with that for sure. The cinematography in this film is also really fantastic. I love the way that it is done here. You just really do feel like you're there with them in the situation, and it also, there's a lot of great sight gags as well that I definitely don't want to give away, but some that were just absolutely hysterical, and I love what they were doing, I'm sure. And again, a lot of it is because of a dramatic irony thing where, like, we know what is, you know, what they're really getting themselves into, and they don't, so it causes for something very funny. But the film does have a very good sense of visual comedy, and I think they showed that off pretty well here, too. The score here, not really much to say. It's a lot of fun. You know, there's definitely... I will say, though, the actor that plays Thor, really good singer, actually. He does a lot of singing in this movie because of him wanting to be, like, a singer and things like that, and I thought he actually did some really great stuff. I really liked him for sure, and the editing to this film I thought was very well paced. There really was never a point where the film was dragging for me. I was pretty much into it the entire time, and it just really flowed by quite nicely, and the film is very fast-paced for sure, and it definitely does move at a brisk pace, and that I think that definitely does help it as well. In terms of flaws for this film, I don't really have a ton, but there are a couple here and there. Now, like I said, most of these characters are very well developed. I really like the three boys. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the two teenage girls we follow here. Even though I liked what they did with them, they are really nothing more than just an obstacle that gets in the way for the three of them, and then they'll give them really bad advice and things like that, and I was kind of hoping that they'd give a little more. Molly Gordon sort of has something going on in the beginning, but then it's abruptly cut short with, like, her boyfriend and how he's sort of, like, emotionally abusive towards her and things like that, but then it's really never brought up again, and I was thinking we could maybe dive into them a little bit more, but not really. And again, I like what we got, but I just wish there was a little bit there. Also, as much as I really did find this film hysterical, I will admit the first 10 to 15 minutes I thought were just a little bit awkward. It took a little getting used to. I was a little bit worried at first it was just going to be, you know, sex joke after sex joke, but it turned into something a lot more. I could definitely see what they were building to, and I was very happy to see what it led into for sure, so it wasn't really that much of an issue. And also, this is just a very, very small nitpick. It's not even really that big of a deal. So like I said, Thor is trying to do the school musical. You know, it's something that he really wants to do. The school musical is Rock of Ages, and keep in mind they are in 6th grade, so obviously that wouldn't really happen, and I get that that's kind of the joke, but I don't know, it just, me being into musicals, it bothered me a bit, but it's really just a minor nitpick. Like, it's not something that is going to hinder this film in any way. It's just an observation, and it's something that I thought was just a little bit strange overall, but either way, guys, Good Boys is a lot of fun. This is everything that I really wanted to be. It is anchored so well by its three leads, especially Keith L. Williams, who, like I said, I think he is just going to be such a star after this movie. I cannot wait to see what he's going to do. Brady Noon as well is also fantastic here, and Jacob Tremblay, of course. Those three just work so well together. The comedy is so consistent. There are so many just hilarious jokes that I don't want to spoil here because they're absolutely hysterical. But the film also does have a lot of really great character development, which I also wasn't really expecting. It's just the definition of a really great late summer comedy, and that's exactly what I wanted this to be. It really doesn't try to be anything more than it is, but it also is a little bit more heartwarming than I was expecting, and I definitely really did appreciate that for sure. Overall, I think this is just the definition of a really, really great comedy, and I'm definitely going to give Good Boys overall an A-. So over, guys, in my review of Good Boys, the most guys saw this movie overall, their thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.